Hey, this is C&D Channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my UFC 147 post-fight analysis. I did get to see a lot of UFC on FX4, unfortunately, but I'll do what little post-fight analysis I can do for that. I'll talk about Maynard versus Guida, especially. As far as picks go for UFC 147, I got 6 out of 11 correct. Of course, Arantes versus Milton Vieira was a draw. I personally thought that should have gone to Arantes, personally. With UFC on FX4, I got 7 out of 12 correct. So, I did what I generally want to be, which is more than half. With UFC 147, fight of the night went to Franklin versus Silva. Rodrigo Dam got submission of the night, and Vina got knockout of the night. On UFC on FX4, Swanson got knockout tonight, Miller got submission tonight, and Stout Fisher got fight tonight. Let's mainly talk about 147. The undercard was awesome. Up till the last 3 fights, honestly, were not bad, but I guess a bit underwhelming, I suppose. You want the tough finalists to look strong. They didn't look that great here. And even Franklin versus Vanderlei, while the second round was awesome with Vanderlei almost winning, the rest of the fight really kind of went into cruise control after that. I'd like to actually just start off not talking about the fights, but with prospects and some food for thought here. A lot of people were talking about how this cast of Ultimate Fighter Brazil were comparable to the prospects and contestants of Ultimate Fighter 5, which had like Wyman, Lozon, Gambarian, Diaz, Maynard, Cole Miller, I believe, among others. And then I was reading some comments, and it's like, oh no, this cast is overrated. They're not that good. Which makes me, investigate, I guess, some of the points here. Well, for one, a lot of these guys aren't even fighting in their natural weight class. I don't even think Honey Jason is a featherweight. I believe he'd be more natural as a bantamweight. Same with Hugo Wolverine. I know Masum Duba, if I'm not mistaken, fights as low as lightweight, and he beat a middleweight in Pitatumbo. Some of these guys are going to fizzle out. I've never been too impressed with Rodrigo Dam. And some of these other guys, might just be as good as like mid-tier at best. But, it really begs the question, with prospects, and one thing I'm starting to notice with a lot of MMA fans is there's this really, I want to say wrong impression about prospects, I guess. It's kind of like, if you're not coming in looking like John Jones, Phil Davis, or in Bellator like Eduardo Dantas, Renan Barão, just these amazing prospects, it's like you're not going to get anywhere or something, if you don't look like that right away or something. Because from what I read, it's like, oh yeah, none of these guys, they're not really that good, everyone's overrated, I can't see these prospects getting that far. It's like, well, really? I mean, I'd like to go back to Ultimate Fighter 5. It's like, that's supposed to be this great season. I mean, there was a stretch where, like, guys like Nate Diaz was losing to, like, Clay Guida, Joe Daddy Stevenson, went up to welterweight, got killed by Rory McDonald, lost a stun gun. It's not until now that it's really validated about how good, he is and by extension, how good that season was. And, of course, Gray Maynard finally getting a title shot. The other guys, like Wyman's kind of like a mid-tier, Lozon, mid-tier. Gambarian found some success, but now he's just on a skid now. Really bad one. Cole Miller isn't doing that great. So, it makes you kind of wonder, what are people looking for in prospects? To me, I always found that these guys are raw prospects. They're I wouldn't say they're like super UFC ready. They're not gonna be John Jones type prospects either. But that's not to say that these guys can't be top 10 fighters. Only Jason didn't look that great against Pepe, to be honest. Cesar Montante did not look good against Sergino. You have to also consider Montante only has like 6 fights. This is a 7th MMA fight. Jason, like I said, wasn't fighting in his natural weight class. I thought Jacob Badal looked good. His half guard game's awesome. Igor Viana, raw prospect, but definitely a prospect. Same with Macapa, Vina and Galato were having pretty much a very high level ground, clinic. Just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu clinic down there, And so it comes off to, Masson Duba was defending takedowns from a middleweight and beating him up, when he's a natural lightweight. Hakon Diaz looked great wrestling and with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it really makes you wonder as far as prospects go. And I guess it's fitting to talk about it with this season because, it was a really, a lot of people were really looking for, or really liked this season, thought these guys were raw prospects. I would go so far as to say as they were raw prospects, They're still rough around the edges. A lot of them are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. A lot of them have, more than serviceable stand-up, but they're still young and have the ability to get better. That's why, I don't agree with people when they say, oh, yeah, these guys are overrated. They're not that good prospects after all. I guess there's a case for it, but I think it's also a case of we're not even going to find out until, a year or two ahead of time after this season. We've seen other Ultimate Fighter guys, whether it's Brookins, McGee, Kendall Grove, that just are perpetual mid-tiers. So, and that could very well happen to these guys, but I see the potential in them. A lot of these guys, like I said, are so young and, already have, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, good stand-up. Some of them can work on the wrestling. Some of them have good wrestling, So, I guess we'll see in the future on how it's going to turn out. Look at Mutante's performance here. I kind of think Daniel Serafian would have beaten him too. So, I don't even know if, Mutante is the top prospect more so than Daniel Serafian may be able to beat him. Let's now get to the fight card. Rich Franklin beat Vanderlei Silva by unanimous decision. There's a couple stories with this fight. One, this is Rich Franklin's first win in 2 years. He only fights once a year. And two, the second round was a bit contentious as some people gave it 10-8, others gave it 10-9. I think there's a really good argument for a 10-8 round because it's not just he dropped him and almost finished him. For an extended period of time, he was beating him and almost, I'd say 20 to 30 seconds. He was just beating him down pretty much. This is a good win for Franklin. Once the third, fourth, and fifth round especially hit, he was definitely just finding his range, picking him apart. But it didn't really go to a point where I thought that he was going to finish him. He did that cool flurry at the end that did wobble Vanderlei as well. With Franklin, he's in a weird position because he's not beating Vitor. He's not going to beat Anderson. Against a guy like Sutton, he may be able to get, back to his feet. Maybe beat him up on the feet. You never know. He may be able to beat him. He may not be able to. He could probably beat Okami again. He could beat Michael Bisping, Bosch, Munoz. There's some top middleweights that Franklin can beat. Stan, maybe. That he can maybe beat. That's the thing. I'm not saying, it's guaranteed. So he's still a good fighter, and he still has top level skill. It's he's just in that weird position where there's certain guys like a Vitor or an Anderson that he probably would just lose to. He can fight either of those guys. He can fight the winner of Kung Lee versus Patrick Cote. As that'd just be a fun fight. I think he should go higher than that, though. With Vanderlei, at this point he's kind of like a name that like up and comers can probably build themselves from. I guess he can rematch Bisping. I think he'd lose to Sonnen. I guess he can fight a guy like a Munoz or something, and so Munoz can get another like big name under his resume. I think he has like Levin and Maya under his resume, but you can't really put Vanderlei against like a young prospect like Andrew Craig or something like that. That wouldn't work. He's too big of a name. You kind of have to give him someone higher up there. It was a fun fight. It did get fight of the night. I didn't think I personally didn't find it to be fight of the night. I thought like Vina versus Gioletta was a little better. Ugo Wolverine versus Makafa was pretty fun too. I think they were better contenders for that, to be honest. Next right after that, Cesar Mutante beat, I'll just go with the nickname, Sergino by a unanimous decision to win the Ultimate Fighter Brazil middleweight tournament. One thing about Mutante, and notice it even in the fight to get in the house, is the way he comes in the straight line when he attacks, and that's where he gets countered, especially by like right hands. He really needs to fix that. It's not working for him. His kicks are really good. He needs range. That's where he dropped them. There are some times when he went in the inside that managed to drop Sergino, but for the most part, it started with some sort of attack from range, especially near the end of the third round where he got him with the straight left as a range, as a cross. It's more of a range punch. His kicks too. He definitely is someone that should probably work more at range, and he does like to utilize kicks more, but it's when he likes to go inside and rush in that his defensive holes really start to show. I think he's going to fight Daniel Serafian next. It looks like. I think Daniel Serafian would probably beat him, to be honest with you. It should be a good fight. There's potential in Mutante. He doesn't have a lot of fights. He has less than 10 fights. He's still young. He's still a prospect. And he looks like a guy that has potential to improve. He has good ground skills as well. Sergino, I don't think he's in his right weight class, to be honest. He looks like a blown up like welterweight. His stand-up's still bad. Even though at the times he's rocking him, his punches just look funny. They just don't look technically sound. It doesn't look like he has too much. He really wings him. It doesn't look like he has too much power in him. It's his ground game that's going to get him far, but he has a hard time getting people to the ground. He doesn't really have the takedown ability. So it's really hard to say where he's going to go from here. I like the guy. He is a character for sure. But, I don't really know where he's going to go from here. Next fight after that, Honey Jason beat Pepe by unanimous decision. Interesting things to note. It took him a while to get that. He couldn't wear the Jason mask for some reason. He ended up wearing it for a second. And then he was crying into the octagon, which I don't think helps him. He should be crying after, he wins. And I think he was the better fighter than Pepe. He managed to keep the fight standing a lot of times. He's getting good counters on Pepe. Got some really good overhand rights on him. Like I said, I think there's a lot of potential with Jason, to be honest. He trains with the right guys and the Nogueira brothers and the Pitbull brothers. Stand-up's really good. He was slipping a lot of the wild haymakers from Pepe. So, he's pretty good at slipping punches. He just didn't show that killer instinct that we're known for, or that he was known for on the show. He kind of coasted a little more. Dana White even expressed his dissatisfaction with that. Jason also has really good ground skills as well. Pepe mainly his ground skills are his best attribute, and I like the idea of a guy pulling guard if he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and like has legit credentials there. But he definitely needs to attack more, and that's the thing. That was the problem with Pepe. He wasn't doing that. With Jason, like I said, it's hard to say. I think he'll go down to 135. It's gonna be hard to say like where some of these Ultimate Fighter Brazil guys go from here because it's their first fight in the UFC. Most of them should probably fight lower to mid tier guys. And I think a lot of these guys are going to change weight classes as well. I think Jason should probably just get down to 135 and see how he does there. They probably need the talent anyways. Next fight after that, Fabricio Verdun beat Mike Russell by TKO in the first round. It wasn't a win-win situation. It was kind of a no-win situation for Verdun, but he made it into a win-win winning situation. He stopped a guy that was historically hard to put down. And did it in the first round. Then with an uppercut, which is kind of ironic because Junior Dos Santos put Fabricio Verdun down with an uppercut. I think Verdun is probably at this point after Velasquez versus Dos Santos. If Overeem's not ready, I think Verdun's probably the next logical choice for the title shot. His stand-up skills are greatly improving. I don't think he's a true title threat, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he'd lose to Dos Santos. I think he'd probably lose to Overeem again, to be honest. And even Cain Velasquez would be a really interesting style matchup, actually. Still good fights for Verdun. I'd still like to see Verdun versus Mir. Barnett gets into the UFC. That'd be really cool, too. There's top guys that he can fight. Russo's one of those guys that he has ugly fights. He's not that great at any particular area of mixed martial arts, to be perfectly honest with you, but he kept winning. He went up against a guy that finally, I guess exposed him in a way. He always had defensive holes. Saw in the Duffy fight. He saw even like John Olov was mean Russo as well. This is a terrible stylistic matchup for Russo, and it showed. Good win for Verdun. There's a lot of good fights for him. He definitely should get some top of the division guys. So Russo, I think he should fight. It's more in the middle of the pack again. A guy like a Struve would be kind of cool or something like that. Next fight after that, Hakon Diaz beat Yuri Alcantara by unanimous decision. Alcantara, I picked Alcantara to win this, and man, he couldn't defend takedowns. He's getting controlled on the ground. He did throw up like a good armbar at one point. It looks like he was trying to get back to his feet, but he just wasn't able to. I felt that Alcantara had a better stand-up, but man, he just could not defend the takedowns from Diaz. Hakon Diaz was like the number one Bloody Elbow scouting report pick for that weight class. And it showed. He trains at Nobu now. Still 28 years old or something like that. His ground game's fantastic. He's definitely a prospect to look out for. Among others. These guys like Hades. Sylar is getting up in that division as well. Does he fight 135? No, he fights at 145. There's a couple guys coming up in that division. At least Hakon Diaz will be another one. He needs to work on his stand-up skills, but his takedown and ground game are very strong. It should be able to get him pretty far, to be honest. Yuri Alcantara is no joke. He has good stand-up. He has a good ground game. But Hakon Diaz was able to really put him, utilize his game and, beat Alcantara. Kind of sucks because I was hoping that Alcantara can be an eventual top of the division guy. He's getting up in age now. Don't know if he'll be there, anymore. He might be stuck in mid-tier purgatory. It's tough to say, but I see a bright future for Diaz. To the prelims, Arrigo Dam beat Gasparzino by rear naked choke in the first round. Gasparzino was like the Lieben of the house, he's the annoying guy. So there's some satisfaction in him winning. I don't see much of a future for both of these guys. Whatever weight division they're fighting in, should probably let's fight lower to mid-tier guys there. It's not much I can really say about the fight, to be honest. It was a good one for Dan. He's definitely wasn't the most winningest guy up to this point, so good win for him. Next fight after that, Massaranduba beat Petachumbo by TKO in the first round. Like I said, it was a blown-up lightweight defending takedowns and beating up a middleweight here. Good win by Massaranduba. I think both these guys are in their 30s though, and pretty experienced, so I don't really know how far they're gonna go. Which is kind of unfortunate. I like Massaranduba. Seems like a good guy. He's a good takedown. He showed good takedown defense. He hits hard. I like what I see from the guy. Like I said, for a lot of these guys, I can't really say where they're going to go from here, but, whatever division they stay in, lower to mid-tier guys. Next right after that, Hugo Wolverine Viana beat John Macapa Teixeira by split decision. I'm pretty high on Macapa, but he definitely lost his fight. I don't think it should have been a split decision. I had it for Hugo Wolverine. He's a smaller guy, but he managed to use his speed. He had overall gameness to win this fight. Macapa was throwing too many wild overhand rights at times. I think he should have probably bullied him more into clinch, but that the times he did, he was getting good knees. But Viana, too much movement. He's a little too quick for him. It's a little too game for him, to be honest with you. I hope Hugo Wolverine goes down a weight class. He's a good prospect. He seems like he's always in there. I like his skill set. No one's going to forget his elbows from the top when he got into the house. He's a really game fighter. I still think Macapa, he's still a good prospect. His ground game's really good. I think I overrated his stand-up game. He gets a little too wild at times, and he definitely needs to fix that. But I think there's still potential for him to be a good featherweight, whereas I think Wolverine can be a good bantamweight. Okay, next fight after that, Tiago Badal beat Makaro Mafra by TKO in the third round. I always like Badal. His clinch game is pretty nasty. His half guard game from the top is pretty nasty as well. He's got that beat shoulder cancer. What can you say? He's a good fighter. I think he's a solid fighter. He's still pretty young too. He wants to improve. Stand-ups slowly but surely improving as well. So yeah, I like the guy. Can't say too much about Makara. It's a game fighter. But yeah, I guess these guys should be fighting more like mid to lower tier guys. I was rooting for Badal. I'm actually a bit curious to see where he's gonna go from here and how good he's gonna become. Next fight after that, Vina beat Galato by TKO in the third round. Good win for Vina because he's losing the ground battle. He's showing good defensive skills on the ground, but overall, Galato was better on the ground, but Vina was better on the stand-up. The combination that finished Galato was pretty cool. His knees to the body. There's 4 punches that disconnected straight to the head. It was really cool. Both these guys are prospects to look out for. Still pretty young. They're both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. They're terrors on the ground, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm curious to see where they're going to go from here. I see some good skill sets from both these guys. And finally, I actually missed this fight. Felipe Arantes fought to a draw against Milton Vieira. That's the thing. I should retract what I said earlier. That from what I read, I thought that Arantes should have won. Is what I should have actually said. I got to go back and see if that fight was a draw. From most of the comments I read too, it sounded like Arantes should have won that one. I guess I'll talk about UFC on FX4. briefly. Maynard versus Guida was the most contentious thing there. I think the biggest problem here was that there was, the game plan seemed like Guida was supposed to stick and move, but it turned out to be like move and move and move and move a lot of times. To the point where Maynard actually let him punch him a couple times. Guida goes for a takedown. Maynard sprawls and almost gets a guillotine, It's kind of like poetic justice for some and others. There's a lot of different camps. There's a camp that said that nothing was going on and a lot of rounds for Guida, and they should have been 10-10 rounds. There's other camps that said, well, Guida did more than punching air like Maynard did, even though it was like 5 punches, It was a punch, run away, literally running away. And, well, in that sense, Guida did more. He should have got the round, So that's the thing, there's a lot of comparisons with this fight and the Carlos Condit fight. I think that's really being disingenuous to the Carlos Condit fight. And I think people are coming into the Condit fight with really, I think they're expecting a war. That didn't happen. But I think people got this like really negative stigma about the fight that it was just running away when it really wasn't. It was sticking and moving. The only problem is, I think the problem with the sticking part was a lot of the sticking was like a leg kick, you know what I mean? And then moving or something like that. And I think that was one of the biggest problems as well, which is more than what Guida did, to be honest with you. I think there's a good argument for the 10-10 rounds, to be honest. I'm more in that camp. And that Maynard should have, rightfully should have won the fight. It's really tough to say. A lot of people bag on Greg Jackson because of this. Oh, I hate the Greg Jackson game plan. Oh, really? Well, Cub Swanson, who TKO'd Ross Pearson, trains with Greg Jackson. So a lot of people, the problem with, by extension, they start to lose the idea that, like, Donald Cerrone, Cub Swanson, and so many other fighters actually train with Greg Jackson that are finishers and that really come into fight. But, there's guys like Guida a lot of times when he's not getting beat up that doesn't really come to fight a lot of times, or that Condit performance you saw against Diaz that really have people down on like Jackson Winklejohn, when in fact a lot of their guys are actually looking to finish fights. Otherwise, it was a solid card, Stout versus Fisher is fun, even though it was contentious because it was the idea of like you get the takedown near the end of the round and not winning the round. At least that's how Dana saw it. Ever saw it a good fight with Waldberger. Pearson Swanson was fun. Lamas got the upset over Hachihioki. Which goes to show once again, is this guy overrated? Maybe, he doesn't seem good at fight IQ. It's like, he's repeatedly sticking his head in for guillotines. Nejam beat Jardine. Story got a good win over Nejam beat Keith. Story beat Jardine. Seiler keeps winning even though a lot of people didn't think much about the guy, and now you kind of got to take notice of him now. Kamosi got a good win over Catone. Brown beat Ramos. Miller beat Funk, and Stone got the split decision over Peg. So that's pretty much it for my UFC 147 post-fight analysis and a bit on UFC on FX4. If you have any comments, just leave them below. That's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.